Take a minute and think back all the way to Chapter 1. You learned about homeostasis. This means maintaining your internal body conditions. One of the things you have to maintain homeostasis of is your blood nutrients. You have to keep the same level of nutrients in your blood all the time, regardless of whether you're eating or it's been several hours since you've eaten or how active you are. And hormones are very important in doing this. So in this video, we're going to see the basics of how hormones can maintain your blood nutrient levels. So first, let's look at your nutrients. We have here carbohydrates. And when you eat carbohydrates and you digest them, you get glucose. So glucose is what's in your blood. This column represents what's in your blood. This column represents what you eat. When you eat carbohydrates, you get glucose in your blood. The next one, this food group, represents proteins. Right? Meats, eggs, cheese, so on. Those are all good sources of protein. When you eat protein, you get amino acids. So your digestive system breaks protein down into amino acids. The last picture here is my favorite, a peanut butter parfait, all full of fat. And when you eat different types of fat, you get triglycerides in your blood. So when we talk about blood nutrients, we are talking about three things: glucose, amino acids, and triglycerides. Let's think about eating. Let's suppose you go have a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant for breakfast before you come to class. That breakfast will have 530 calories in it. You get all those calories at once. It only takes a few minutes to eat one of these sandwiches. So you now have lots of blood nutrients. Then you come to class. Sitting in class burns about 100 calories an hour. You have 530 you just ate. So you're going to use some of those nutrients, but not all. So you are going to have extra nutrients in your blood that you don't need right now. Your body does not like to be wasteful. Suppose you got a paycheck and your paycheck was $530 and you went to Walmart and you bought your toothpaste and toilet paper and some food and whatever you need for the week, and it came out to $100. So now you have an extra $430 you don't need right now. Are you just going to throw that money in the trash can on your way out of the store? Of course not. That would be crazy. Your body uses that same logic. Your body is not going to let those extra 430 calories just go to waste. It's going to save them. Just like after your trip to Walmart, you put that $430 in your wallet because you know you're going to need to buy more stuff next week, your body does the same thing. First, we'll look at the amino acids. So here are those amino acids that are in your blood. Your body is going to do protein anabolism. And make those amino acids into proteins. So your amino acids are built into proteins. This is not a storage. This is just they become part of your body. So they might become collagen in your bones and skin, or they might become enzymes that you're going to use. When it comes to glucose and lipids, those are the ones you store. So the piggy bank here represents storage. You store your glucose and your lipids. Glucose gets stored in your liver and your skeletal muscles. So think of liver and skeletal muscles as like a wallet that you put your extra glucose in. And when you store glucose, you store it as glycogen. So glucose is an individual little molecule. You can see here, there's a glucose. Glycogen is just several glucose all linked together. Then your triglycerides, you're going to store in your adipose. And remember back in chapter 5, learning all the tissues, adipose just means your fat tissue. So your triglycerides get stored in your adipose or your fat. Then later, between meals, when you need nutrients, you're going to pull these back out of storage. So you can take the glucose and the lipids back out of storage and use them. So just like you put that $430 in your wallet, next week you have to go buy more stuff, but maybe you only get paid once a month. You've got that money in your wallet that you can use because you saved it. Down here is your liver and your kidney, and this is for a special process that they can do. If your blood glucose is getting low, say you're not eating enough carbohydrates and there's just a lack of glucose. So you're not eating enough carbohydrates and there's not glycogen to draw on to get the storage back out, and there's not enough glucose in your blood. You must maintain glucose because your neurons need it. Other cells in your body can get by on fat and amino acids and other things for making ATP, but your neurons can't. And your neurons, remember, are what make up your brain, your spine, and your nerves. They can only use glucose to make ATP. So you have to somehow get some glucose into your blood if you're not eating carbohydrates. Your liver and kidney can do a process called gluconeogenesis. This is where they can convert non-carbohydrate molecules to glucose. So, such as amino acids. If somebody is in like a starvation situation, their body will start to break down their own muscles in order to release the amino acids from the protein in the muscles, and then the liver and kidney will convert those to glucose so that you can have glucose to keep your brain running. This picture is just taking all those ideas now and putting them to the scientific language. So we have here glucose. So you can see when you have extra glucose in the blood, so when you have extra in your blood, you will move it to storage in your liver and skeletal muscles. And this process is glycogenesis. So here you can see number one, there's glycogenesis. And if you break down what these words mean, you have glyco for glycogen, and then genesis means formation. So this just means formation of glycogen because you're going to store the glucose as glycogen. Then between meals, when you need to get that glucose back out of storage, then you will do this process, glycogenolysis. Lysis means break. And then again, there you have glycogen. So this just means you break glycogen, and when you break glycogen, you get glucose back. Then we have that gluconeogenesis. So this is if you are desperate for glucose. Then your kidneys and your liver can do the gluconeogenesis. So genesis, remember, is formation. Neo means new, and the gluco for glucose. So this means you're going to make new glucose. And it's new glucose because it wasn't a carbohydrate. It was most likely an amino acid that has been turned into the carbohydrate glucose. Then here we have our lipids. So we have two processes here. Lipogenesis. So break it down. Genesis is formation. So this is when you store your extra lipid. Then you have lipolysis. So remember, lysis is break. And both of these start with lipo for lipid. So this is when you return it to the blood. And that is going in and out of your adipose tissue. Then finally, we have the protein. Whenever you have plenty of amino acids in your blood, you do protein anabolism. So this is where you will build amino acids into protein. And this happens in all cells of your body, and especially in your muscles. So that's why here they're showing just cells in general, because every cell is going to do this, but then they also have a muscle because your muscles do a lot of this. Then you have protein catabolism. This is something your body prefers to avoid. You don't like breaking down your proteins. So if you can avoid it, you will. But sometimes it's necessary. So this is when you break your proteins to release amino acids. Think of protein catabolism. Think of like if you needed some 2x4s. You had some project and you really needed some 2x4s and you didn't have any, so you tore down a wall in your house in order to get the 2x4s out. That's what protein catabolism is like. So these processes, all the storing and releasing of the 3 nutrients are all controlled by hormones. And there's many hormones that can influence these processes. So later in the chapter, once we start getting into specific hormones, you'll see that we list as a function of the hormone, perhaps glycogenolysis or lipolysis or lipogenesis. So many hormones all contribute to controlling these processes of moving nutrients back and forth between your blood and your tissues.